Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. A lot of people talking about Ronda Rousey and WrestleMania 35 that's going to be coming to you live from New York, New Jersey, up there in the Meadowlands. That's going to be a really big show for WWE. Honestly, anytime the show's going to end in a 0 or a 5, it's going to be a monumental feat that they always sort of draw back to that first WrestleMania and basically say this is how we got here. Ronda Rousey coming in to WWE is something that we've seen before. We've been able to sort of trace this back to Brock Lesnar coming over from UFC. But Ronda Rousey has basically said in interviews is that she doesn't want anything special. She's not going to be a part-timer. She loves wrestling. She really wants to be involved, and she wants to be involved, honestly, just about as much as WWE wants her to be there. When she signed her contract, she didn't want anything. No special locker rooms, no special pay, no special hotels, no special rental cars. She wanted to be like everybody else in the back, and she wanted to show that she actually really wanted to do this and wanted to see how far she could go in WWE. As of right now, people are already sort of penciling in Ronda Rousey to main event WrestleMania 35. People are actually thinking that Ronda Rousey isn't going to be like in the women's championship match that they basically just called the main event, a lot like they called the Nakamura versus AJ Styles match at this year's WrestleMania the main event, even though it happened earlier on in the show. They think that Ronda Rousey actually has the appeal that she can close out WrestleMania and sort of honestly be the first girl or the first woman to actually have her match as the main event. Some people thought that the Ronda Rousey's match with Triple H, Kurt Angle, and Stephanie could have been the main event this year, that it was one of the main angles that they mainly focused on, and if it would have been one of the matches to sort of take everybody home, that people might have left happy, unlike that Brock Lesnar beating Roman Reigns ordeal that went down on the end of the show that everybody turned on because it was a match that basically nobody wanted to see. For Ronda Rousey to main event, it would more than likely be against Charlotte and or Asuka. Both of these girls are some of the best women that they have. When you look at this Charlotte versus Asuka match from this year's WrestleMania, I was really surprised that Asuka didn't get the win. Charlotte was able to break the streak and keep her championship, even though she ended up going to SmackDown, where she got cashed in on after being beat down by the new NXT girls, by Peyton Royce and the iconic duo. My mind just went blank. The other one, I can't remember her name. But she came up to the main roster. They showed off their skills. They beat her up, and then Carmella came down, cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase, and was able to win the belt. But Asuka ending her streak. Basically, Charlotte can be now looked at as the streak builder. Obviously, from here until next year's WrestleMania, Ronda Rousey would not lose any of her matches. And Charlotte could go into WrestleMania as the streak breaker, a lot like, Brock Lesnar after he was, built up as the guy who beat Undertaker's 21-0 streak at WrestleMania 30. That was sort of the building blocks to him winning the championship and becoming the main guy in WWE. I think still now, Paul Heyman still brings it up in a lot of those promos that he does. And it's 4 years later. It's 4 years down the road. He did what nobody had been able to say he's done. Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte are definitely two of the biggest girls in the company. Ronda Rousey looks like she actually really wants to be on the main roster with the Superstar Shakeup. You had her and Natalya. Natalya moved over from SmackDown to Raw. It looks like she's going to be the first person that Ronda's going to be working for. My first thoughts when that went down was that basically I thought that Natalya, we've seen from pictures and videos that Natalya sort of got her into the Performance Center. Natalya was some of the first girls that she trained with that this show how basically pro wrestling worked, how the moves worked, and at the same time Ronda Rousey would train Natalya how to basically use UFC submission holds in wrestling. So it was like trading their skills back and forth. But with Natalya being on Raw, and obviously Ronda Rousey going out on the road, she's going to be doing some house show appearances. She's going to be doing the European tour. Natalya could really show her how wrestling works on the road. You know, maybe if it's how to save money, the right places to be, how to, you know, get ready to go to the shows. You know, she's stepping into a whole new world, and, you know, Natalya being able to be there to be sort of her real life friend, mentor in the WWE is a good spot for Natalya to be. Some people instantly thought that Natalya is going to turn on Ronda Rousey sooner than later, and actually Ronda versus Natalya will actually be Ronda's first angle that they do, instead of, you know, her being led through some tag matches and things like that. So we'll have to see how that storyline plans out, but as of right now, it looks like the straight ahead plan is for, you know, it to be Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte at next year's WrestleMania. As long as they don't really shove the fact down that this is the first women's match that is going to main event WrestleMania, and maybe build it up until the point of, like, you're near the end of the show and you're like, well, I guess they got Roman match and they got the Ronda Rousey match. I wonder what match is going to happen next. And then obviously Roman's match comes out and you're like, wow, it's really going to main event the show. A lot like that, the Hell in the Cell Sasha Banks versus Charlotte match. They weren't really telling everybody this is the main event, this is the main event. We found it as a surprise as the show went on, and then they were able to sort of tout that out, that that was the first pay-per-view that was main evented by a women's match. I think if they shove the women's thing down our throat, that's something that the fans are going to turn on. They just naturally let it happen. Don't make it happen to the point when we know that's the only reason why you guys are having that match be the main event. A lot like the women's Royal Rumble at this year's Royal Rumble, or, you know, the Money in the Bank ladder match. You know, just let it naturally happen instead of just forcing it down our throats, I guess you can say, even though that's what people say they do with Roman Reigns. So we'll see what happens, but as of right now, that's the main event for WrestleMania.